What's the first wedding you remember? Mine was the Princess Bride.
Marriage. Marriage is what brings us together today.
Weddings are an iconic cultural touchstone. Maybe you remember Princess Diana and her show-stopping 25 feet long train. We often see weddings at the end of movies, treated as the pinnacle of a woman's life, her peak. The idea of the bride becoming a princess for a day, the prize that has been won, is not only not going away, it's increasing in scale. And with weddings come so many expectations. The pressure from family, friends, and that little voice in the back of your head is enormous. Don't you want to make your day perfect like you see in the movies? I wrote this video as I began planning my own wedding, and let me tell you, I went into it very cocky about how little I was going to spend. These people had made fools of everybody else except for me. I was going to outsmart the wedding industrial complex. Well, call me Boo Boo the Fool, because as I assessed the scope and scale of what I needed to pull off, the number I thought I would spend started climbing fast. So today we're gonna talk about how the cost of the average wedding exploded, the economics of it all, and how to get through this process without feeling duped or going into debt. And if you're just a curious onlooker who's perplexed by how much young couples are willing to spend on one day of our lives, stick around. Let's take a journey back in time. We can find our first recorded instance of weddings around 4,000 years ago in Mesopotamia, and after that in ancient Egypt, China, Rome, and Greece. Marriage was vital to creating unions between families, consolidating power, passing down property, and guaranteeing an heir and the preservation of lineage. In the 8th century, marriage became a sacrament in the Roman Catholic Church, and at least in the Western tradition, it took on a whole new religious life. Many of our traditions are passed down from our ancestors long ago. Rings first appeared in ancient Egypt. Bouquets of herbs carried by the bride were used to ward off evil spirits. If you're Jewish, the ketubah, or the marriage contract, existed even in ancient Judaism. But it wasn't until the mid-16th century, the Elizabethan era, that we saw the wedding as we know it take shape with bridesmaids, processions, and feasts for those in attendance. And the mother of all traditions, the iconic, the show-stopping white wedding dress, began with the Queen herself, Queen Victoria, as she married Prince Albert in 1840. So, contrary to popular belief, a modern wedding is not exactly a modern invention. And the embrace of these traditions is what connects us to people who came before us and lived in very different times. And I think that's beautiful. But things have changed a lot in recent years, especially post-World War II. The economic boom and the advent of the middle class brought extravagance and luxury to a whole new set of couples. And today, the money couples expect to shell out for their big day has increased dramatically. The average cost of a wedding in 2025 will be around $36,000 according to Zola, and it's gone up 30% since 2019. But hasn't everything? Inflation, spurred by government spending and Federal Reserve money printing, has made everything more expensive. And vendors gotta eat too, so the cost of weddings is going to go up with inflation and a rising consumer price index. But that doesn't account for everything. Back in 2017, writer Meg Keane calculated the cost of her parents' 1974 San Francisco wedding in modern pricing and compared it to the number it should have been had it simply kept up with inflation. Her parents spent $2,095 in 1974, which should have come out to $10,068 when adjusted for inflation. You know, they must have had a small, low-key wedding, right? Wrong. They hosted 300 people. When she added up all the costs to recreate the wedding, it came out to a whopping $47,286. That is a 370% increase.
No. Wait.
Now, this is in San Francisco, to be fair, and California is an expensive place to get married, but that is quite a steep increase. The biggest differences came in the cost of photography, venue, and reception, but costs have skyrocketed across all categories. Why? For one, Many of us have moved away from our hometowns and need to rent a venue whose prices have been driven up with rising housing and property costs. And our expectations for perfection have increased, so we rely on experts who will charge expert prices that we often pay to achieve that standard of perfection. We also increasingly want customized weddings. Everybody wants a theme, their names on the napkins, and photographers perfectly suited to their aesthetic preferences. The sticker shock you get from florists, for example, is fair if you've never purchased thousands of flowers and elaborate floral arrangements before. Back in the day, you would have made a simple bouquet of white roses for the bride, and that would have been enough. Now, we're pulling in hydrangeas, ranunculuses, and poppies. We're pulling in flowers that don't even grow naturally in the United States. And the beauty is, you can achieve that. It just costs money. And so does keeping up with the trends. Holly Gray, an LA wedding planner, told The Knot, "Our grandparents did not have photo booths, mashed potato bars, multiple gown changes, or drone videographers." So true. Now, I'm not saying the cost of a wedding is fully attributed to these things, as anyone who has planned a wedding knows. It's the food and the venue that really get you. But TikTok and Instagram influencers are doing their best to convince you that you need these things, plus elaborate international bachelor and bachelorette trips in order to have a special day. You just don't. The truth of the matter is, while inflation may have increased cost, and while the industry using licensing laws to protect themselves from greater competition are certainly factors, the real culprit of high wedding costs is us and our beliefs about what weddings should look like. Advertising in print magazines, film, and now TikTok and Instagram, as well as large televised weddings, especially from the royal family, have created a whole new set of expectations for the big day. We have a lot of deeply held emotional beliefs about what our weddings should look like. I mean, some of us have dreamed about this day since childhood. Everything has to be perfect. The dress we wear is the dress, the one we're supposed to feel the most beautiful we've ever felt wearing. Now, I'd be willing to spend upwards of $1,000 on it, and I almost exclusively shop for clothes secondhand. I'm extremely thrifty, but when a wedding is involved, a lot of my normal habits go out the window. This is where the wedding tax comes from. It's not an actual tax, and it's not vendors trying to pull a fast one on you, although it can certainly feel that way. The wedding tax is simply a lesson in subjective value. You may have heard that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Well, so is the value of quite literally everything. And that's especially apparent when the same item is placed in different contexts. Walk with me for a second. Imagine you're stranded in a hot desert and someone approaches you with a big, fluffy coat. He says he'll sell it to you for $250. You will probably laugh him off and ask if he happens to have water on hand. Now, imagine you're in an Arctic tundra, and for some reason, you forgot to bring a coat. That same man approaches you, you're freezing, and my goodness, you are suddenly wanting to cough up $250 right then and there. That, my friends, is subjective value. You felt the coat was more valuable in the context of the cold than the heat, and so you're willing to spend a lot more for it. It's the same with weddings. We have a lot of subconscious feelings and desires and beliefs about weddings that make us feel comfortable with spending lots of money on them. The subjective valuation of nearly every component of a wedding is higher than for other events. The truth is, things cost what they cost because we're willing to pay for it. And maybe it's worth it, but maybe it isn't. 56% of couples go into debt for their wedding. That's starting marriage off on a very rocky foundation. Financial problems are one of the leading causes of divorce. To me, ignoring the long-term financial health of your relationship to go all out for a wedding is symbolic of having a high time preference. You're valuing the immediate over the long term. Wedding planners often tell you to establish your big goals for the wedding. One of them should be to come out of your wedding financially healthy. The way I'm trying to plan my wedding, and maybe I will eat my words at a later date, TBD, is to make decisions on the margin and doing cost-benefit analysis for absolutely everything. Marginal thinking goes like this. I'm going to weigh the cost of making the next decision with the benefits I gain from that decision. I think this is an excellent way to keep your guest count at a reasonable level. If I have to pay an extra $180 per guest, then how much does having that extra person at my wedding mean to me compared to spending another $180? This can be applied to basically every part of the process. How much does having the florist do the flowers for me compare to the cost of an extra $6,000? Does the simplicity of an all-inclusive venue really outweigh the higher cost and hidden fees I'll feel obligated to pay? Are guests going to be impressed with a sit-down dinner as opposed to a yummy buffet? Do I really value what they think about it that much? Returning to first principles is the only way to make it out of wedding planning under budget and with a clear conscience. And that's another thing. Make a budget before you sign the contracts and get in too deep. Let's make it something that we can afford and won't regret once the high of the wedding wears off. So you've made it to this point of the video and you're thinking, Maggie, it sounds like you're defending the industry and think there aren't any problems. I do believe that there are problems, but nothing unsolvable. The wedding industry is experiencing 1,000 tiny disruptions every day when we choose to go the unconventional path and when entrepreneurs step up and address the needs of brides on a budget. I've mentioned flowers several times throughout this video. That's a section of the industry experiencing a ton of disruption these days, whether it's through faux floral companies, wholesale sites, or even buying them off a girl you met on Facebook Marketplace. I know how stressful and time-consuming it is to get creative, but putting in that work will save you thousands of dollars, maybe tens of thousands of dollars, if you let go of expectations and decide on what's right for you. I am not a victim of the wedding industrial complex. It's a privilege to be able to throw a lavish party for my friends and family. Writing this video has been incredibly helpful for my process, and I hope it was helpful or at least informative for you as well. If you like this video, please remember to like, subscribe, and leave me a comment. I've left extended reading specifically about marginal thinking, cost-benefit analysis, and subjective value in the description, as well as sources for this video. And remember to think on the margin. I'll see you next week. Ciao.